Networking matters in pretty much any industry you could be in, but it's really, really important in gaming and esports especially, yet people go about it the wrong way and actually hurt their chances and reduce their opportunities with the approach to networking they take. So today I want to share with you 3 really simple tips that you can implement into your approach that will increase your chances of success, actually building meaningful relationships and getting more opportunities in gaming and esports. And this first tip is key. Like, none of the other stuff we're talking about in this video matters if you don't take this tip to heart, and that's actually building meaningful relationships. See, people can smell from a mile away if you're just reaching out to them for clout or if you're just trying to use them for something. And obviously, when you're networking, you have a specific goal. You might want to get a job in esports. You might want to open up opportunities for collaborations with other content creators if you're a content creator yourself, just trying to build your platform. But I want you to put that stuff on the back burner for just a second, because when you do that and when you don't come at it from the perspective of, hey, I want to use you for your followers, or hey, I want to use you for your connections, you actually build a genuine relationship, a genuine friendship. Those sorts of opportunities are more likely to come up in the long term. It might take a little bit longer. It might not be as simple as shooting a message and getting a job interview, but give it a few months, even a few years if you're really patient. And because you're actually friends with the person, you have an actual relationship independent of your connections in esports. If an opportunity comes up, if a collab opportunity comes up with another bigger content creator, they're going to be more likely to let you know or put you in a position to take advantage of that opportunity. And it can be a little awkward at first because, like, you know deep down that, yeah, you want to get an opportunity maybe with the company the person works for, or you know they know someone else that you want to do a collab with. But I promise you, just being a little bit patient and building an actual relationship will help you land those opportunities in the long run. And it's not just about the job opportunities and the collaboration opportunities. It's just cool to make those friendships in the space. Like, I've been creating content in esports for less than a year at this point, and I've already made some amazing connections and some amazing friends. I don't even want to use the word connections, but some amazing, like, actual friends that I would talk to regardless of if they had an opportunity for me or not. And that's the point where you want to get to with this. And point number 2 is going to seemingly contradict point number 1, but in fact they work together. At a certain point, you gotta ask for what you want. If you wanna have someone on your podcast, ask them to be on your podcast. If you have a specific question for someone, ask them a specific question. We'll get into how to ask better questions in just a second here, but don't be afraid to shoot your shot either. It's this fine balance between being patient and being a little too nervous. Of course, you don't want to come off like you're clout chasing, but if you never ask for what you want, you're not gonna get it. Like, closed mouths don't get fed. You have to, at some point, pull that trigger. And most of the time, as long as you ask good questions and don't come across like an absolute dick, people want to help. So don't be afraid to reach out. And the worst that someone can say, as long as you're polite, as long as you're respectful, the worst someone can say is no. And a perfect example of how this worked out for myself was when I first started the Esports Economics podcast. I was brand new in creating content in esports. I've created content for years in other spaces. I've been playing games my whole life, but in terms of actually sitting down, creating YouTube videos, creating podcasts in gaming and esports, I was brand new. But I knew I wanted to start this podcast, and there wasn't really a way to go about it without shooting that shot, without shooting that DM. And actually DM Dylan Pomeroy, he's a marketing coordinator for the Minnesota Rocker, and I was able to get him on the podcast as my first guest. And then from there, everything snowballed. And obviously this personal brand, I guess that's what you would call it, is still in its infancy, not really where I want to be just yet as far as building that platform. But without that initial DM, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't even have gotten this far. So you want to shoot that shot. Now, getting into point number 3, kind of building off of point number 2, there's no weird dichotomy here. This is pretty straightforward. When you shoot the DM, be polite, but also be direct. If you have that genuine relationship, it's a lot easier to ask because you actually are friends with the person and you know the person. But if you're shooting the DM and you've never talked to the person before, you're just a fan of what they do, you want to make that connection, you have a specific question for them, be specific with the question. Do not just DM someone saying, "Can I ask you a question?" That's probably, from what I've heard, one of the most annoying DMs you can get. So instead, actually ask the questions. Are you looking for recommendations on how to structure your resume? Are you looking for recommendations on how to progress in your career as a social media professional or as a content creator? Like, if you have a specific question, just ask it. And try not to make that message extremely long. People want to help, but if they open up their DM and see a giant wall of text, it's going to be pretty unlikely that they're going to read through that entire message. But if it's short, concise, to the point, but also polite, they're going to be likely to reach back out and help. And again, worst case scenario, they don't. As long as you're polite, you're going to be good. And as a bonus for sticking around this far into the video, we're going to go over a few bonus tips that are going to help you out even more. So the first one, be on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, obviously you're going to have a tough time sending DMs, so that should be a given anyway. And in esports, Twitter is the group chat, so you want to be on there, and that's one of the best places, if not the best place, to connect with other content creators, other professionals. So whether you're a solo content creator or trying to work for an org or a brand, you want to be on Twitter. And when you're on Twitter, you want to reply to conversations. You want to add your input to conversations in a thoughtful and polite way. Don't be the guy that's going around saying, what about this? What about that? You're wrong. I disagree. Sure, it's okay to disagree with a take. It's okay to add input that maybe isn't in agreement with the original post. But don't do that every time, and don't do that just for the sake of doing it. A lot of times people reply with disagreement for the sake of making themselves seem smarter or like they know more than the other person, and that is not a good way to network. People don't want to hang out with that guy. Of course, you don't have to fit into the crowd and not everyone's gonna like you, but be mindful of how you portray yourself on Twitter. When you reply, it's a great way to increase visibility for your account because other people are looking at the initial tweet from the person you're replying to, especially if they have a bigger platform. So it increases the chances of them seeing your reply. And it's a lot easier to grow that way versus just tweeting into the void. You should tweet on your own and put your own standalone tweets on your account. But at the beginning, it can be tough to grow that way because no one's seeing that. If you're starting from zero, no one's seeing that initial tweet. So by replying, you can get your account more visible. And on the topic of this video specifically, you can actually have conversations with people in your industry. So it's a great way to get the ball rolling there. And then from there, when you have a conversation with someone on Twitter and the replies, you can maybe take that to the DMs and start the conversation there. And that kind of bleeds back into the points we were discussing before with DM conversations and actually creating those genuine relationships. The Twitter replies can be a great place for that to start. Again, if you're doing it in a polite way, there really is nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, they don't see your reply, they ignore it. Best case scenario, a new relationship is formed and you're off to the races. And speaking of Twitter as well, if you're starting from ground zero or you have a pretty small following you want to grow, I have a video on the channel going over exactly how to grow on Twitter. 5 really simple steps. So I'm gonna put that up on the screen right now. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below if you want a part 2 of this series. And also be sure to hit that subscribe button for new videos just like this twice a week, every week on marketing and business in gaming and esports. And I will go ahead and see you in that next video.